Bonjour, and welcome back to Living Linda Abroad. If you're an American or other non-EU retiree living in France or thinking of making the move, this is a must-watch video. Big changes may be coming to how you access the French public healthcare system. Today I'm going to break down what exactly the French Parliament just voted on, exactly how much the new contribution might be and where things remain uncertain, how it could affect different visa status types, retirement, or working, what you should be doing right now to protect yourself and plan accordingly. So let's dive in. In early November 2025, the French lower house, the Assemblée Nationale, voted an amendment to next year's Social Security budget for 2026 that would introduce a minimum contribution for non-EU nationals who are residents in France and accessing the public healthcare system, PUMA, but who have not been contributing to French Social Security. The amendment targets especially retirees from G20 countries, with particular focus on Americans who hold long-stay visitor-style visas and are benefiting from PUMA after 3 months of residency. It is not yet law. The Senate still needs to consider it, and the implementation, via decree, still needs to define details such as the contribution amount. The goal to ensure fairness and sustainability in the French healthcare social security system by making sure non-contributors who benefit make a clear contribution. Now, you may be wondering, exactly how much will I have to pay? The short answer, we don't know yet, but here's what we do know and how to interpret that. The amendment passed without specifying a fixed amount. The wording refers to a minimum contribution to be set by decree. Some commentary suggests the new contribution will be significantly lower than the current ad hoc CSM regime, which applied unpredictably to non-contributors with global income. Current system, under the CSM, for those not contributing to French Social Security but residing and in PUMA, the charge can reach up to 6.5% of global income above a threshold, depending on circumstances. Because the amendment says minimum contribution, it suggests a fixed fee or capped rate may replace the percentage income model. Some articles caution that until the decree is published, planning must remain flexible. For example, the amendment does not state exactly how much the minimum contribution would be. I know you want a number, I don't have a definitive one yet. It could be a few hundred to a few thousand euros a year for many retirees, but if the government wants to recoup more, it could shift upward. Because the current deficit of France's social security system is 23 billion euros, this measure is part of that larger context. This is where it gets very important. Which status you hold in France will determine how you are impacted. Let's break it down into 3 typical categories many expats use. Visitor or retirement long-stay visa, VLSTS. No French Social Security contributions. If you reside in France on a visitor retirement long-stay visa, commonly used by U.S. retirees, and you are not working, not affiliated with a French Social Security affiliated employer self-employed contribution scheme, then you fall into the exact target group of this amendment. The vote specifically mentions retired Americans living in France who have not worked here. Under the current system, you may have qualified for PUMA after 3 months. Now you may be required to pay the new contribution before accessing PUMA. This means budgeting ahead. You may need to pay a new annual fee plus still maintain any private mutuelle top-up insurance you have. Those working in France, employed or self-employed, or contributing to French Social Security. If you are employed, self-employed, or otherwise contribute directly to French Social Security, you are already paying into the system. In many cases, such individuals are not the focus of this amendment because the fairness argument targeted non-contributors. For example, the article said, foreign retirees from G20 countries, particularly Americans, who benefit after just 3 months of living in France. So, if you are working and contributing, you may be unaffected or less affected by the new minimum contribution category. But you should still review your status. Check if the new decree contains any wording that brings more categories in. The amendment appears targeted at non-EU citizens from G20 countries without reciprocity in health social security agreements. If you're from an EU EEA country or have a different status with reciprocal treaty protections, you should verify how the decree addresses your specific situation. For U.S. citizens, because the U.S.-France tax treaty exempts many U.S. retirees from French income tax, this has been a key issue. So what should you do right now if you're an American considering retirement in France or already living there? Let's walk through actionable steps. Check your visa status. Are you on a visitor retirement long stay visa, VLSTS, and not contributing to French Social Security? If yes, you are most likely in the impacted group. Monitor legislative updates. Since the amendment still needs Senate approval and a decree will define details, keep an eye on French expat news sites and your prefecture emails. Budget for a new contribution. Even though there's no final figure yet, start thinking, could this cost you an extra $500 to $5,000 or more per year? Review your healthcare cover strategy. If you counted on free or low-cost access via Puma, be aware the new requirement may push you to either pay the contribution or consider private insurance alternatives. Consult a French tax residency advisor. Given your particular income, residence, visa, and tax treaty status, you'll want an advisor in France who understands the new amendment and how it affects your case. Consider alternatives. If you're in the early planning stage, you might ask, is France still the right destination given this change? Or might another country offer more stable healthcare contribution terms? Let's summarize. French MPs have voted to require non-EU retirees, especially Americans on visitor-type visas, who access Puma to pay a minimum contribution. Exact amount unknown yet will be set by decree. It appears intended to be lower and more predictable than current ad hoc charges under CSM. The most affected group, non-contributors living in France, long-term on retirement visitor status. Those who contribute via French Social Security or hold other visa status may be less impacted. Be sure to identify your status, budget accordingly, monitor developments, and get expert advice. Thanks for watching. If you're thinking of retiring abroad or already living abroad and want updates like this, please subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified when I post. If you have questions about your situation, for example, your visa type, your income, your healthcare coverage, drop a comment below and I'll do my best to respond and perhaps feature your question in a future video. Stay tuned, stay informed, and see you next time on Living Linda Abroad.